Welcome back to talknorth.com. Thank you for listening. If you can, please download before you listen. It helps our business. I'd also like to thank our producer, Brandon Morton, and let you know if you'd like to sponsor this program or any of the programs on the network, you can reach me at jsouhan47@gmail.com. Welcome to the season-ending edition of the Cheryl Reeve Show, part of the Talk North podcast network. I want to say, first of all, Cheryl, thanks for taking the time during an incredibly busy and sometimes emotional season to do the show. I think the show's a hit. Doing the shows at Free House has been a blast. I've done a lot of shows in a lot of venues. We've never had crowds like that for any of the other shows. And the hockey show's incredibly popular, and people come out for it, but not like this. And Brandon, our producer, Brandon Morton, he used to work in traditional radio, and they do live shows. He's never seen crowds like the ones we got at Free House. We don't have any more shows scheduled at Free House going forward. At this point, we're going to talk to them. We're also considering some other venues, but it's been a blast. So thank you. Thank you to all of our listeners who come out and all those who support the show. I think we have a hit here. Let's keep it rolling. Thanks to our sponsors, Free House in Minneapolis, freehousempls.com. Gloria Ramsey from Successful Marketing Group, successfulmarketinggroup.com. We'll tell you more about her business later. Shelley Bean, the sports queen. And you know what? I want to make sure I get this right. She said she's having some success with her promo code. If you want to buy Shelley Bean, the Sports Queen's books that we talk about so often on this podcast, you get 25% off your purchase when you enter the code Lynx Coach Reeve at checkout. She's gotten a bunch, and she's fired up about that. And thanks also to the Lynx Dynasty podcast, which is sponsoring the program. We want to continue to grow the program and the network. If you'd like to sponsor this program, you can reach me at jsouhan47@gmail.com. And as always on the show, we got a lot to talk about. I'm just going to open it to you. What do you want to start with? What do you want to talk about first?
Well, the great game last night, the Phoenix, Connecticut game that was so good, and then even the game before that, Washington, I thought played great. So we're kind of shifted into being a fan now of the WNBA playoffs, and I think the product is just so strong, and so. The games last night, it's just, as we moved into each step, now into the semifinals, I'm looking forward. We have it circled, with the day and the time, and this has just been a really successful season in the WNBA, and unfortunate that we're not still playing and having a chance to advance, but all in all, just a great WNBA season.
You said something before we started the show that your body kind of knows when the season's over, and I was telling you that when I was a beat writer and I would work 180 days on the road covering the Twins back in the day, I get sick the day after the season was over. You're probably going through the same thing.
I am. It hit immediately, and I didn't understand it in years past, that all of a sudden I said, my mom would tell me, well, your body just has a way of knowing, and I just really never bought into that. And then, the last couple of years, literally like clockwork. I think it started on the red eye back to Minneapolis. Your body just knows, it can now get sick because you have time to deal with it. But I think we all have, we all deal with that at some point. Like you said, all that you do in a season, and the ways that you work hard, and you sleep less, and it all catches up to you.
What's tougher, going through a season and having the draining experience of playoff game after playoff game and playing all the way through Game 5 of the WNBA Finals, or having a season end like this?
This
which
is
you're
much
not used
tougher.
to.
Oh, this is much tougher. There's no doubt about it. It's not even close. Because when you're in it doing, like you said, preparing for a playoff series, and Game 1 and the adjustments in Game 2, and honestly, you go, I don't really know what's tough about that. That's the joy of it. It's tough not being a part. It is not even close about what's tough. For me to, it just sounds like first world problems to say it's tough to be preparing for a Game 5 in the finals. So there's undoubtedly this is much, much harder.
we've asked our listeners that when they listen to this podcast or any podcast on the network, that you download instead of just listen. It's better listening experience. It's better for our business, and I really appreciate it because the numbers on our downloads have gone way up since we asked. So we really appreciate all the help in that regard. I'm going to start with this. I've had friends of mine, I've had listeners, I've had readers in the wake of your season ask me, man, should they have moved on from Lindsay Whalen after last season? And I get that there's a pure cold logic there. Hey, you got to make your moves at the right time. But I don't think people appreciate just what Lindsay has meant to not only your franchise and not only this group, but also to women's basketball in Minnesota. I mean, it's not just that she's been a great player and a champion. She's also been a reason that your franchise is successful and popular.
Right. Yeah, no, and people that ask that are speaking of it purely from the standpoint of, professional sports and, a season ends and right away you want to start making transactions to improve your team. And I will say that the WNBA, or at least in my experience to this point, the WNBA, there's a greater sense of teams staying together. We don't have the movement that, say, for example, NBA has. And so our thought process is not the same. At no point in time did I think that I wanted Lindsay, Simone, Maya, Rebecca, and Syl to be without one another in a season. I knew that there was going to come a point in time, and I knew that Lindsay's retirement would probably happen first. And so I wanted this group to defend their title. I wanted this group to be together to defend their title. Did I think it would be really hard? Absolutely. Do I have any regrets about who was on the team? Absolutely not. And Lindsay would tell you the same. Though it was hard, though her thoughts of retirement came fast and furious after we won last year. I knew the challenges that would go with that. And then, at the same time, like it's, you go, hey, we've been doing this together for, it was 8 years, 7 that were highly successful. And they deserved being, together, if that's what they wanted to do. Making the choice to be a free agent and come back here like Rebecca Brunson did, making the choices to extend contracts as the others have done, to stay together. That was always first and foremost on my mind, was to do right by that group. And Lindsay Whalen being a part of the team was doing right by that group.
And since we last talked, Danielle Robinson has signed a contract extension. The other aspect of all this is if you get to make kind of the nice handoff from Lindsay to Robinson, who knows? Maybe the postseason goes better. Maybe you're already maybe the average fan is more optimistic about next year if Robinson steps in and you win a playoff game or two with her.
Yeah. That would have obviously, been nice, and even having Rebecca Brunson, and winning, a little bit further. I think the challenge, would have been great to, even before the season started and knowing what all of our challenges were as the season moved along. I think being the best team in the league was going to be something incredibly challenging to do. I think we were very realistic about that, but I think competing in the playoffs a little deeper was something that we all had as expectations on our minds. And then, it didn't happen. Injuries, the way that this team, played together, stuck together, hung together through so much that happened. We wanted to, win that game in LA. We just, we didn't play well. We had a couple performances that were really good, but as a group. And yeah, I just think that, the way forward, I think people have to understand it's going to be different. And, there's a lot of pressure on Danielle. I did tell her the story. I said, remember, Aaron Rodgers was behind Brett Favre. Aaron Rodgers turned out to be, arguably better than Brett Favre. I don't want that kind of pressure on Danielle. We talked about that. She did say, but, Aaron Rodgers was pretty good, and so she likes that, kind of as a bar for her. I just want Danielle Robinson to be Danielle Robinson. I think it's really important that we don't, as hard as it's going to be, the Lindsay Whalen era is one that is historic. And, history isn't made all the time. And, we just have to, okay, what is our new life? What is our new era? This beginning, what does it look like? And that's what we're going to be shaping this offseason. I think our fans have every reason to be optimistic about our team. I think there's a difference between optimism and realism in terms of understanding the ability to repeat what we've done in those historic years, that's probably not where we should be. Not to say that I don't believe in our team. I just understand how hard it was to do and how special it was with a group that was absolutely in their prime and were tremendous players and some of the best at their position of all time. So they should be optimistic. We're a team that always wants to be, competing and being in the playoffs and trying to be successful. They should be optimistic about that.
Lindsay said something I want to play off of that statement with. Let's first thank our primary sponsor, Freehouse Minneapolis, freehousempls.com. We told you about a lot of aspects of their business. We love the patio. We love the bar area. It's a very spacious restaurant. They also make their own beer. They change out their beers all the time. Right now, there are 4 beers that are available year-round, or their Kolsch-style ale, which is my wife's favorite, their IPA, their brown ale, and their stout. Of course, they'll also mix you any kind of drink you like. Some of their best food items include their shrimp tacos, I'm going to let you say it because I always mess it up.
The caramelized Thai pork.
Thank you. I don't know why I have trouble with that, but I'm old. I mess stuff up. The andouille hash for breakfast. And as their slogan says, they have everything from breakfast to beer and everything in between. The Roto Bird is one of my favorites, especially somebody who's trying to eat a little cleaner these days than I have as a traditional sports writer. The Roto Bird is great. And as I always say at Freehouse, they even make kale taste good. So check out their menu at freehousempls.com. Check out their happy hours. And they're always there for you. They're breakfast to beer. Lindsay just said something in her postseason press conference, where post/season press conference. She said, the league's gotten a lot better, and I think we're one of the reasons the league has gotten a lot better.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think it's a thought that we've had as a team, as we've seen around us. Like Lindsay said, that kind of that gap closing and the league raising the level of play. We think that we had something to do with that, along with LA. I said that I think that the rivalry, the eyes on our group, the growth of the league, but then I think also the players in the league aspiring to be, as successful as the Minnesota Lynx and the LA Sparks over the last couple seasons. I often wonder the rivalry that was between LA and Minnesota, that if this is going to be the impetus for a big jump in our league. If you look at the rivalry of a Larry Bird and a Magic Johnson, what it did for the NBA and the growth that, came from that. I liken our series with LA, the last couple seasons and the rivalry, even in the regular season, that it could have a similar effect. And so I think that Lindsay is spot on. And it also speaks to, some of the challenges that we had, in trying to stay on top as we became such motivation for so many. We hear from players when I'm at USAB, how they just teams are emulating, things that we've done in terms of at the time style of play, maybe who's involved, and I think that Lindsay's comment is spot on.
Brunson and Augustus, great players. Contributed heavily this year. Do you see the end being anywhere near for them, or are you going to encourage them to come back? How does that play out?
Is the end near for sure? Brunson's 37. I think it's, in the case of Simone, she'll be 35. And so, the end is near. But like I always do at a season's end, back when I had Taj, or when I've had, all these veterans, a Tan White, a Gia Perkins, a Lynette Pearson, I always have the conversation with them of what they want the end to look like. When is the end? How long do you want to play? And we exchange information, and Simone continues to want to be a part of this. She loves hooping. She loves playing here in Minnesota, and loves the fan base, and has always been incredibly loyal to this franchise. As I told Simone, and I haven't met with Rebecca yet, but it'll be a similar conversation. It's going to look different now going forward, and we're more open to things than maybe what we were during their time here. And that can be difficult, I think, for players that have been here for a while. It might be a change in a role. It might be just a change in the way we do things. They're going to have to be more open. And, I think that will be, something that will take getting some used to. Not only, for those players, but obviously for me and for fans that have